Good day, Chief here for Chief Tells Tales. I'm going to talk about getting promoted to CW4 because it'll tie into the latter half of this video. I was told by many officer briefs and many officer sessions where we were talked about the officer evaluation report, our OERs, how we needed to have a blip, like a pulse as they call it. In other words, you can't stay boo at 2. I'm the exception. I stayed at 2 in every single evaluation that I had. And as I think I pointed out one time, I had a couple senior raters who were like, well, Chief, I don't give 1 blocks to my warrant officers. Okay, sir, you're hurting my career. But most of the time, like I said, I tried to make sure that I had good write-ups, because just because you got a 2 I should have never been promoted to 4. I know that. I wasn't expecting to make 4 on my first get-go. And when I told that at the end of my career to my last battalion commander, he was flabbergasted. He was like, Chief, that's impossible. I'm the exception, sir. I had good write-ups because I heard also in these where you needed that pulse, you made sure that your writings were good and that you had the words that they were looking for. It was really strange because throughout my career there were certain words that if they were in your OER as the first sentence, hey, this guy's really good. So like I said, I made 4. I made CW4 while I was over in Germany, down at Heidelberg, and it was at the beginning of September 2008. I'll tell a little bit more about it, but I just want to get to the next subject here. So when people get promoted, they always thank their parents, their wives, their spouse, their children, their religion, their God, or whatever else. I mean, everybody gets up there and thanks. And one of my captains forgot to thank his wife, and I have it on tape. I taped with my lieutenant getting promoted to captain while I was in South Korea, and we all got done, and as we ran up to shake his hand after his promotion, all the warrant officers said, sir, you forgot to thank your wife. He goes, oh, I did. So, yeah. So I got promoted early September 2008, and then I also had put in to go to the advanced course. I was trying to stay consistent in my schooling for my warrant officer, where as a sergeant took the classes when they came up, but I decided that maybe to make myself look good at the same time was to stay constant with my schooling at the levels that I should go. So here it is, the advanced course. I'm a CW4. I've already should have taken this as a CW3. No big deal. I got accepted while a 3, so I guess that counts. But there was another 4 at the schoolhouse with me, and he had gotten promoted earlier in the year, so he got to be the class leader. I'll talk about that later. With the advancement in rank, basically when I'm talking to subordinates, what I tell them is construed to be an order. So if I give instructions like, you know, I need this paperwork or I need this done by a certain amount of time, my subordinates know that that is an order. When I was enlisted, I did at one time wanted to become a first sergeant, and then the higher I got and the more places I was at, I was like, do I really want a company of misfits? Because that could happen. Even in the MI, we have a lot of misfits. So I fell out of favor of wanting to be a first sergeant, but then at the same time, I really didn't want to be a staff level sergeant throughout the rest of my career. Because even high-ranking sergeants kind of split. Either you're taking care of troops or you're working in staff the rest of your career. That's the same way with regular officers. They get leadership positions or they get staff positions for the rest of their career. They generally follow one path. Sometimes they crisscross on the way up to the top, and sometimes they don't. So I really didn't want to do as an NCO, I didn't want to do the staff functions for the rest of and that's another reason why I became a warrant officer, knowing that eventually that was going to happen sometimes faster than I thought. But getting back to the orders, because even like my first AIT, I had a sergeant that helped me put together an officer packet. I got approval, but just as I got that approval, I came down on orders for that particular MOS, and that canceled my officer packet, and the sergeant that helped me was kind of disappointed that I didn't get to leave to become an officer. And at one time I thought, okay, yeah, he was correct. I probably should have submitted again. But then I got to thinking, do I really want to be in a position where I have to send troops into battle? I don't know how some people do it. I just finished binge watching Star Trek The Next Generation, and I was quite surprised at how many times Riker and Picard flew off the handle in front of their subordinates, yelling at one another sometimes, or yelling at or dressing down, but raising your voice at the same time. Subordinates in front of other subordinates. That's a big no-no in the military. You don't dress down somebody in public like that. You take them aside to the ready room. They did that quite frequently too. But then again, Riker and Picard were the main ones to send someone to their death, so to speak. And I don't know how people can do that. And I don't know how officers can do that and remain sane, as I will put it. So I get promoted early part of September. Within a week, I'm at Grafenwehr, doing preparatory work for an exercise that's going to take place the following work. And this time I actually got a place inside on base to reside for the exercise, which was quite rare. But since I got there a week prior, I was able to get a room. Therefore, I was going to keep it throughout the exercise. So I took my computer with me, so I could play my favorite game at that time, which was EverQuest 2. My oldest son was here in this house along with my mother. So one morning, I woke up, I turned on EverQuest because I was eating breakfast inside my room, and my son was in the chat. And he says, "Dad, you up?" I go, "Yeah." He says, "You need to get home. Grandma fell down." Meaning my mother fell down. I said, "Okay." I said, "Inside the cabinet in the kitchen is all the information that you need to send to the Red Cross to get the ball rolling, because the Red Cross, once again, was going to pay for my ticket from Germany to take care of my mother, and come to find out it'd be her funeral, and then get me back home, which will become a headache later on because my school for my advanced course was early October or late September, can't remember which. So I was already planning to come stateside as it was to go to the advanced course. So they get the ball rolling, and like I said, I'm at Grafenwehr, so I go to my boss and I said, "Sir, my mother and the Red Cross has probably started the procedure." And he says, "Okay, Chief, pack up, go home." So I did, and I woke up the next day after getting back home from Grafenwehr, and I forgot to shave. Not that I really have a heavy beard like this, but I got back, was talking to my other boss, because I'm in G3, so I have several bosses again. And he said, "Chief," he says, "Red Cross has got everything. You need to go over there." And I put my hand up and I go, "Excuse me, sir." I said, "I forgot to shave today." He says, "Chief, don't worry about it. I'm sure we can forgive you one day for not shaving, but go take care of your business." So I was flying out like in 2 days. when I went over to Red Cross, and I said, please tie this ticket in because I'm already going to be stateside. My class date begins in September. And they're like, oh, okay, yeah, we can bring you home after the class date. We'll extend the ticket that long. So I get home to here, San Antonio. My mother was actually up in the Denver area when this happened. And I asked my son, I said, what's going on? He says, well, Grandma's in ICU, and they don't think she's going to live. So I said, okay. And I called my brother. He told me what he knew. It was basically the same information. Well, then he says, oh, you need to call this doctor. So I call up, and that doctor happened to be on call that day. And she told me the deal was, she said, when the paramedics arrived at the restaurant where she fell down in the lady's bathroom, they gave her a sedative that to ease the pain or whatever. I don't know exactly, remember everything. And she said, by the time that sedative wore off, we did not realize that your mother was going to be a quadriplegic the rest of her life. And she said, I've already talked to your brother. I've already talked to your mother. She can only blink yes or no. She says, I already have your mother's opinion, or her vote, and I have your brother's vote. But I need you to think about it tonight. I don't want your vote right now. And she says, the vote is to pull the plug and let your mother die. And that was on a Friday. And I thought about it. And it brought back those memories of how do you order somebody to death? How do you order those troops to attack that hill, to attack that trench, and possibly die? So that's what I was thinking Friday night. And she says, you can call me back on Saturday morning. I will be here to listen for your phone call. Well, I already knew what my answer was. I already knew what my mother's answer was, and I already knew what my brother's answers were. I didn't have to guess, because I know my mom would not want to be a quadriplegic the rest of her life. So I woke up Saturday morning and talking to my son, I said, well, we better start packing our bags, packing the car up. Because my brother had called and he said that he wanted to come meet me at my house because he lived in Houston. Come meet me at my house, and then we would take our cars and drive up semi together on the way up there. So while my brother is driving to my house, I'm talking to my son, and I'm like, oh, I gotta call the doc. I mean, it kind of sounds like heartlessness, but it was just mostly forgetfulness. So I get on the phone and I called the doc, and she says, that's what your brother said, and that's what your mother said, and that's what I say. So, kind of a bad video, so to speak. It's kind of a downer, but it's part of my career. And it's like the one time that I actually gave an order to have someone killed or to die. And it troubles me once in a while. And sometimes it doesn't, because I know what my mom's wishes were. So this is Chief. Merry Christmas next week or following week. Remember, freedom's not free. Pray for cold weather over in Ukraine so they can kick Russia out of the rest of their country, so this doesn't go on for another whole year. I don't think Putin can survive personally, but what do I know? He's crazy. So, freedom's not free. Hug a vet, thank a vet, kiss a vet. Go to bed with a vet if you can.